Jack here, owner of Hockey Alley, bringing you back hockey history. And today I got professional goalie Todd Henderson. How are you, Todd?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Jack.
Good. We crossed paths probably in the days we were playing against each other, but I didn't know you at the time. And we got introduced through Jason years later.
Yeah, it's kind of a small world. The hockey world is. Jason Grinovich lived in my basement when he was playing college hockey in Fairbanks, Alaska. So that's how I got to know Jason.
And then your son Jonah is right now playing professionally in Germany, correct?
That's correct. He's
Yeah.
playing in Bremen for the Western Stars in the German 4 League, and he's been to your school many times, and probably should thank you for getting him to where he is today.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you. He's a great kid. Enjoyed working with him over the years, definitely. Uh, and you played professionally as a goalie. How old were you when you started to play goalie?
So it's kind of funny. So back in the day when I was playing, it's the kid that could skate the worst, or was the kid that got put in net. But I actually had a love of hockey, and especially being a goalie from a very young age. So I actually started being a goalie officially at probably the age of 5 turning 6.
Wow, well, that's young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in Bolton, Ontario, in Canada, and there was a traveling team that was 8 and under, and the 2 goalies, myself and my partner, were both 6-year-olds.
Wow. Playing up, that's cool.
Yeah.
You don't see that too often either.
No, not very often.
No.
I mean, honestly, I got more hardware back when I was 6 years old than I did for the rest of my career, I think.
Yeah. Where'd you play your junior hockey?
So back when I was about, actually right after that year, 6-year-old, we moved to Thunder Bay, Ontario,
Yeah.
which is about 4 hours north of Duluth, Minnesota there. And so I actually was able to play most of my hockey from 6 all the way through junior hockey in Thunder Bay, and that's where I played the Thunder Bay Flyers in the USHL.
Oh, yeah, they were in the USHL. That was the only Canadian team in the USHL. I remember that, playing against them. It's funny how it was. They had the American rules, because Canadian rules were a little bit different, but they went with the American rules, and I think you guys had a hell of a team.
Yeah, we actually had a really, really good team, and mostly from right around the area, too. We had a few players from outside of Thunder Bay, but for the most part, we all grew up and were local folks from Thunder Bay. Then the rules were a little bit different, because back then the Americans were playing no 2-line pass, but in Canada they were still playing a 2-line pass, which... Yeah, so you couldn't pass it from inside your own zone across the red line. You'd have to catch the pass inside the red line before going across.
Wow, yes, that's true. And then you went to college, correct? After that, you got on a scholarship?
That's correct. I was actually recruited by Don Lucia and Dave Lorian with the University of Alaska Fairbanks, and they convinced me to come up to Fairbanks because it was basically for the experience, and it's turned out to be quite an experience, and I've been here ever since.
That's amazing. It's a great place. I've never been to Alaska. One day, hopefully, I can visit. I see it on TV, but never actually been there. It's a big state.
It's better. It's actually better in person.
Yeah, that's awesome. And any big names have you faced over the years in, say, college hockey, junior hockey that made it to the NHL, that you recall?
Yeah, there's been many. I was trying to think of this when you asked the question earlier. I played with Greg Johnson in Thunder Bay. He went on to have a pretty good career playing for the Detroit Red Wings, and I think the Nashville Predators. I played against Rod Brindamore in junior hockey, and he lit me up the first year in the Centennial Cup. He played for the Notre Dame Hounds, and they just had a fantastic team. And there's been more players. You just probably take me quite a bit of time to just sit and think about all the guys that have actually gone on and had a chance to play.
Yeah. Did you play against him in Rod Brindamore in college also? Because he played for Michigan State. Did you ever go against him there?
We never played against Michigan State at that time. At that time, my freshman year of college, actually for my first 3 years of college, University of Alaska Fairbanks was an independent. So it wasn't until my last year at college that we got conditional acceptance in the Central Collegiate Hockey Association.
Okay. Yeah. So independent, you could play against anybody. Would like be. Was there were you guys in a standings too? Did they have standings for independent? Like I never knew much about that.
They did, but it more fell in line with the rankings. We had a pretty good rivalry with Anchorage, and then back then Kent State had a team, and they were independent. Alabama Huntsville had a team, and they were independent. Trying to think, I think those were at the time the 4 independents. There may have Air Force actually at the time.
Air Force, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, and then they finally got into a league, and Kent State, I think, ceased their program, and then Anchorage and Fairbanks both went into 2 different leagues.
Yeah. After that, you got invited to the Buffalo Sabres. Is that correct?
Correct. Well, I was actually drafted by the Buffalo Sabres.
You were? Okay.
Yeah, I was drafted in 1989, the spring or summer of 1989. After playing my second year in Thunder Bay junior hockey, so I waited 4 years basically of college hockey before actually attending training camp, and it could be the fall of 1993.
I want to ask you, so if you say you went early to the Sabres as a college player, is there a certain timeline you could stay there before you lose your eligibility for a scholarship? Was there a rule of that?
At that time, I didn't know of a rule. I believe there is a rule now that's a little bit more understood, and I think it's something to do with you have to make the decision after your third year of college, or you maybe become an unrestricted free agent. I'm not 100% confident in that, but I know there is a more defined rule than there was back when I played.
And how many games did you play with the Sabres? Did you get any games in?
Yeah, well, I wasn't there all that often, or that long. Not often, but long. I think I was there probably for about a month, and I did get in a couple exhibition games. One exhibition game, we played the Toronto Maple Leafs. I think we played at Newmarket, Ontario, and then we played against the Pittsburgh Penguins. And I think that might have been in Erie, Pennsylvania.
And you don't want to say, but I could say it for you because you told me a long time ago. You won both of those games. You just didn't want to say it.
I did, but you got to kind of put it into perspective as well. As today's game, they have the prospect games and a little bit of the prospect league. And I think that's probably what it was. All the top prospects were playing, and there was a scattering of experienced NHL guys that probably were maybe a little bit borderline playing. But yeah, no, it was fun. I did win both. I actually got a shutout in the one game. Yeah, I think we ended up winning 1-0. It was against Pittsburgh, I believe. Yeah, and we ended up tying Toronto, I think 1-1 or 2-2, I think.
That's a good stats. But you told me who was there, and you had the 2 goalies that were there were the greatest of all time that you had. Can you?
Yeah, well, there was actually 3, but the two greats were at the time were Grant Fuhr and Dominic Hasek. 2 at the time, 2 of the best goalies, and I'm assuming a lot of money on contract as well.
Yeah.
But they also had a guy named Marcus Ketter from Finland, who had just won the Canada Cup with Team Finland. So, and I don't recall, back then we didn't have elite prospects or some way to keep track of where guys ended up like we do today. But so I'm not really sure what actually ended up. I think he might have went back to Finland. But yeah, no, it was kind of eye-opening to see guys like Grant Fuhr and Dominic Hasek, I'll tell you.
Yeah. When you got your shutout, did management or coach come up to you and say anything to you, or did they not talk to you? Because I'm kind of curious, like getting a shutout in an NHL game. You know, did you?
Yeah, they really didn't talk to me too much. No. You know, some of the guys that were on the bench definitely gave you a pat in the pads, and fans, definitely fans, you know, come up and give you a pat in the back and stuff, and hope to see you later this season. You did awesome in training camp, and then the next day you're having a conversation with management, and the conversation's different. So,
mind me ask, what did they say to you? Because you won both of your games and you had a shutout. Yeah. Like, what would you know, what's their excuse? You know.
Well, I actually got in a conversation with John Muckler. It wasn't very long conversation. One of my biggest mistakes, I think, is not having a good understanding of the business behind hockey and maybe being naive. I didn't have an agent, so had I had an agent, that might have been different. You know, today folks have, you know, what do you call it, family advisors. Yeah. They're advising them since the age of they're 13 or 14 years old, some of them. Yes. But had I had that, it might have been different. But he basically said, "Hey, you had a great camp. You know, here's some things you got to work on. You know, you got to work on your stick. You know, make sure you're a little bit more active in front of the net with your stick, and you know, get a little bit bigger and stronger." And that was, you know, that was kind of obvious. We didn't have, like today, we didn't have the same training programs, and we didn't back then. The idea was that if you bulked up and got muscular, your reflexes would slow down. Well, we know today that's not science. So, but so anyways, that's what he said. He goes, "Hey, we're going to send you to South Carolina Stingrays. It's a new ECHL expansion team. Rick Five is going to be coaching it, and we'd love you to go there and keep an eye on you." Yeah. And here's where my fatal mistake happened: is that I said, "Hey, all things being equal, I'd love to go to Raleigh Ice Caps." You know, I did a tour of Europe with the coach of the Raleigh Ice Caps at the time, and he said if they're going to send me to the East Coast League, he'd love to have me there because my buddy from college had played the year before there and was still there. And so, anyways, they said, "That'd be great. We'll send you there instead." So they sent me to the Raleigh Ice Caps, and then at that time there was an import rule, and I kind of got the numbers game, and they brought in some import forwards, or got sent some import forwards, and kind of in a blink of an eye, I kind of got pushed out pretty quick. And at that time I was fairly disenchanted with hockey, and it only took a couple months to get disenchanted with the business side of hockey.
Yeah. It's the import rule, I think, was like 2 per team, or no, East Coast League a little bit more.
Back then it was actually 6. It was 6 per team, yeah. Okay.
I know they moved it up years later to a little bit more, but I think in the beginning I wasn't sure. So it was 6. In juniors it was 2 per team. Yep. Yeah. Any famous players that you faced in those games? Any stars from the Leafs or the Penguins? Did you face anybody?
Well, you know, Matthew Barnaby was on our team. You know, Rob Ray. You know, when you're in the situation, you're kind of awestruck a little bit. You know, and the last thing you're kind of thinking about who the guy is more about stopping the puck. And, but you know, I don't know if some of the top Pittsburgh guys and Toronto guys were playing at the time. I assume there were some. I mean, Jaromir Jagr was pretty young at the time.
Was he there?
I don't know. No. You know, McGillney was on our team. So yeah, there's lots of good players playing. So I would assume that he probably was on the team at that time, playing against us. I just, you know, kind of when I look back, it just seems like a fog at times. Yeah, it happens so fast. You're really just trying to think about stopping pucks and doing the best you can rather than trying to read names on the back of jerseys.
Yeah, it's true. We don't think about those things. What would be the toughest shot for goalies over the years to stop, or a move, or to a kind of a type of a move? In your opinion, what was back in the day? What was tough, and today, what would you compare the differences?
Well, I think back when I played, the hardest plays to stop were kind of your cross ice or in front of the net pass from one side to the other, because we really didn't move around the net the same way that guys move today. Today, guys are playing a lower style. Like, I played a butterfly style, which was called the butterfly style, and it was a transition from the stand-up style. So I was kind of cutting edge in my day, and they've taken the butterfly style, and now it's even, they put a lot of science into it, and guys are down on their knees, and they can push off with their left leg and move to the right without ever getting up, where I had to kind of get up and move to the side. And I think we were talking about the 2-pad stack, and that's kind of where the 2-pad stack was. We did a lot more desperation saves to try and stop shots, went from one side of the net to the other side real quickly. And I don't think that's the same as it is today. I think today the goalies struggle with, because the style has changed, is goals that are short side upstairs.
Yes.
Because they're playing down on their knees, even when the puck's down behind the net, and guys can move out and shoot short side upstairs. And there's a lot what guys my generation would consider very weak goals. If we ever let one short side upstairs, we'd get yanked very quickly.
Yeah. The game has changed a lot. Like you had Dominic Hasek on your team. How would you think he'd do today with that style? Because he was an unorthodox style. And what would you think?
Yeah, he actually would probably do okay for a couple reasons. One is that he was pretty tall. Okay. At the time, I was considered fairly tall, and I'm only 6'1". So goaltending was a position where you could put a guy that's 5'6", and there's some goalies that were fantastic at 5'6", whereas today everybody's fairly tall. So Dominic was a fairly tall player, goalie. Plus, he played a low style down on his knees a lot. Yes. He would have had to adapt a little bit as to how he moved around the net versus how he did. But I think he would still have been a very good goaltender today.
Mm-hmm. I think, he was amazing. I think that what I like about him, he had that cage, and he could see a lot of the low stuff. Was an advantage for him. A lot of goalies wore the mask.
Yeah, that was actually he was wearing that he continued to wear that long after the masks came around.
Yeah,
I wore the same type of setup for probably through my junior year of college, and then I moved from that mask to the what we see today, more of a form fitted with the cage on the front of it. And the reason is it hurt. It hurt to get hit by a puck with the old helmet and mask. I mean, I had my bars on my mask were bent in multiple directions, and basically, whenever you got hit, your jaw took most of the force of the puck, and then when we went to the form-fitted mask, it basically distributed the blow of the puck to the sides of your face, and wasn't always a direct blow like it was back then, but it was loud. It was much louder getting hit in the face with the puck than it was with a helmet and mask.
Yeah. Did you have trouble adjusting to the new mask compared to the helmet and cage? Was it easy for you?
It was actually quite easy. It wasn't a lot of difference to me. I didn't find going from one to the other that big a deal. It was, I think, the only thing I would say is that you had to have a little bit of confidence wearing it, because you weren't really sure how protective it was. You read all the literature about it that it was supposed to be very good, and it ended up being that way. And I would say the one thing that it didn't offer was a lot of protection to the back of your head.
Oh, yeah.
And when I was playing, they didn't protect the goalie quite as much as they do today. And a lot of times I'd get run into a goal post and hit your head in the back of the post or something. So, terrible. But it ended up being fine. I mean, it ended up being fine the way it was designed. So.
Yes. Did you ever have a favorite goalie mask of all time that you saw?
That I saw? There was lots out there. I mean, so the goalie mask changed quite a bit. Like early on, guys like Grant Fuhr were wearing a form-fitted all plastic mask before they put the cage on the front of it and add more padding. It's hard for me to say. I used to like that because I liked the Edmonton Oilers, and he was kind of my childhood hero, I guess, growing up, Grant Fuhr.
He was great.
Yeah. I guess I don't really have a specific one. Nowadays, everybody's got an awesome paint job, and depending on what team they play for, it's just amazing that both the technology has changed and the paint, or whatever what do you call it? The not the decals, but just the paint designs of the masks has come a long way.
Definitely. And the gear's gotten lighter, would you say? A lot lighter?
Oh, yeah.
Like the chest protectors? Or?
Oh, definitely. Definitely. When I was first started, everything was pretty much made of leather and felt, and with little pockets of plastic sewn in here and there. And, I think my pads were all leather for a long period of time. And if you got a Zamboni refresh and the guy left a lot of water on the ice in your crease, your pads became incrementally heavy as the game went on too. I grabbed a pair of the Nanox Goalies pads the other day. Well, it was probably about a year ago, and I picked those up, and they probably were lighter than my catching glove that I had when I played.
Wow.
Yeah, just the technology and the new fabrics and the the foam that they put in the pads now versus leather, and a lot of the stuff that I played with was stuffed with was deer hair or something like that.
Oh, wow.
So felt.
Yeah.
So big difference.
Do you think, like, if you put, say, a pair of old gear on top goalie today, how do you think they would do? Like, that's pretty interesting. That'd be a good scientific.
I suspect they probably wouldn't actually go in the net. It took a lot of bravery, especially, and it's hard to really make that comparison because today's shooters are they shoot the puck so much faster and quicker. And so if I had the opportunity to wear what they wore today back then, it would be a no-brainer, right? And I just don't think that you'd get a lot of guys brave enough to go in and play with the type of gear that we played with. But again, given the fact that the guys maybe didn't shoot quite as fast, but I mean, guys did shoot. I mean, we had Al Iafrate that shot 103 or 4, back 40 years ago. So,
was he against you that day?
No, I never did have I don't know. I don't believe that he would have been playing in that game, but because he was a very established player. But yeah, guys were shooting hard and heavy, back in the day. Guys were, today, if you watch a game, you don't see a whole lot of slap shots. You see a lot of quick release snapshots, and the guys are shooting it as hard as when I played. The guys shot slap shots. So
yeah, the stick technology's definitely changed.
Yep.
Yeah, I think like a wood stick was a lot heavier of a shot. Maybe it's slower. Comparison like 6-7 miles slower, but they could feel it through the pads. That's what the goalie was telling me.
Yeah, absolutely. I had kind of a suit of armor. I used to, so every time I got hit with someplace, and usually it was around the shoulders. It was like, or the bicep or forearm. Every time I got hit there, I got a new bruise. I'd sew a new piece of padding on somewhere. So because manufacturers just weren't making it. No. They're trying to keep up, but I think the shots were getting harder and heavier, faster than the equipment was keeping up for a while there.
Yeah, it break down a lot quicker. It was different. The leather, real leather, compared to the man-made leather, it was a little bit different. How heavy stuff got and it soaks up. Yeah, as far as goalies in the NHL, and this is a tough question. Goalies in the NHL compared to a beer leaguer, we're talking not the skills, but the reaction time. What would you compare?
Yeah, like I think we were talking earlier, is that you'd be hard pressed to get guys that are shooting beer league probably like 50, 60 miles an hour. And so you got guys in the NHL that are with the quick releases that are shooting, 80 to 100 miles an hour, which is in some cases, 40, 30, 40, 50% faster. I mean, I would assume that a goalie playing beer league is quite a bit, the reaction time is quite a bit slower. And I know that when I transitioned out of competitive goaltending, I had no desire to play beer league. I tried it a few games, but the shots were painfully slow. Mm-hmm. And you get your reaction time set to the level of play in which you're playing. And that develops over your lifetime of growing up from Pee-wees all the way up through junior, through pro and college. And so when you're at the very top of the game, and you're used to having very quick shots, and it's very tough to go back the other way and slow down.
Yeah. And the types of saves have changed over the years. Like Treychek created the kick save, mm-hmm. and guys like Martin Brodeur used to do the stack pad save. A lot's changed. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because that's something that's huge.
Yeah, sure. I think a lot of that has to do with the science of goaltending and how it's changed and how they've created the goalie gear nowadays. And the pads are worn very loose fitting. There's not a lot of protection on the sides of your foot like there used to be, because a skate save at the time when I played was some of the widest stopping area. So mm-hmm. The goalies would use their skates to stop pucks along the ice, because the style was either stand-up or butterfly. Mm-hmm. Now I was kind of transitioning from where the stand-up was the norm to where butterfly became the norm. And so I would probably spend more time on my knees than most goalies would in the day when I played. And I think, we had the skate save, which I used. We had the two-pad slide, which was a way to go from one side of the net to the other mm-hmm. side very quickly, and put as big a stopping area in front of the shooter as possible. And you still see that sometimes today in desperation saves. But goalies today are very, like I say, driven by science and stats. And statistically speaking, they do not put themselves in positions there where they have to make desperation saves very often. It's all based on blocking surface today. And whereas, you're down on your knees, the pads are designed to turn so they fit flat on the ice. You have big upper body. Your glove used to be, when I played, your glove was always down and low. And today it's kind of up, turned the other direction because you're down on your knees more, right? So you still have that blocking of the angle to the top corners when you go down.
Yes.
And so I think, so a lot of it has been stats driven and technology driven as to why the position has changed, and the way guys move from one side of the net to the other. It's the most efficient way to move. The materials that are in the equipment makes it your ability to slide much easier, that they don't stick to the ice or they don't slide too far. There's just the right amount of friction. There's a lot of things I think that are going into the position that are making it, I don't want to say easier, but making it more of a stats type position. And you can see that based, I think, on the save percentages. Yeah. Back when I played, if you had an 85, save percentage, that was pretty high. And today, guys are, 92, 93%. Their goals against average, some of them are, most of them now are below. If you're not below 2,
Yes.
You're probably not a top goalie. And so when I played, if you could stop 3, 3 or less, you were doing pretty well.
Yeah, that's changed big time. The stats for sure. They're more, you have to be up on your game. One game can make you or break you. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah,
video analysis has changed the game too.
Yes, the video, definitely. I want to ask you, would you go back to adding more padding on the, like as far as the width of the pads? Remember, they changed it from 12 to 11. They made the gear smaller. Do you like that as a goalie, or you rather go back to what it used to be?
I don't know if I have a real opinion on that. The games already are fairly low scoring a lot of times. I don't know if that additional inch makes a difference in the whether there's more goals scored or not. I guess I don't follow the stats and the science on that to see what, as a percentage of goals, whether that additional 1 inch would actually make a difference. And if both goalies have the same size pads, it doesn't really matter either. It comes down to who scores more goals, regardless of how big the goalie's pads are.
That's true. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I want to thank you, Todd, for taking the time to talk to me and bringing back hockey history, how it used to be, and a lot of stuff has changed. And it was very interesting. I learned a lot because, the goaltending is what position that I don't play. I do everything else.
I appreciate the ask, and it's my pleasure. And I appreciate you bringing this to the greater hockey community.
Thank you. I'd like to educate the kids and the new generations out there about the hockey history. And I want to wish Jonah the best of luck in his career and success and moving up the ladder, and all the best to him.
I'll pass that along to him. I'm hoping to speak to him later today.
You got it. Good luck to him. And thank you, Todd, so much.
Right. Thanks, Jack.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.